Boards and booze, booze and boards, drinks and beers, fight some hordes. Drank too much, forgot our swords, ran back home, filled our gourds, got drunk again, sang some chords. Boards and booze and boards, with Mickey and Jeb.
Hey everyone, it's Booze and Boards with Mickey and Jeb.
With lots of booze!
Guess where we're at?
We are at Dragon Distillery, Frederick, Maryland.
Yep.
And we are going to shoot live, basically, from this distillery today. And we'll be, at some point, showing you some of the products they have here and everything. And if you're at a Dragon Distillery, what should you play, Jeff?
I think a game with dragons.
Oh, look what I got, Jeff. A Dungeons and Dragons game.
Oh man, let's put this right here. Maybe they'll see it there.
No, I want to put it in front of your face so they can't see you.
The founder of the Dragon Distillery, actually, when we were talking to him, he said that he wanted to see, he's always been interested in this game and hasn't had a chance to play it. So he asked if we could play it, and we were like, sure. So we grabbed a copy, and
so that's what we're going to play here today. Yep. And we'll be playing it
3-player.
Three player. It goes up to 4, and at some point there'll probably be, you might even see people circulating around or whatever. As of right now, they're not open, but they will be. I don't know what the time frame on how long it's going to take to play this. But anyways, so also big shout out to Gary, who plays with us often. Gary, do you want to wave to people? No, he doesn't want to wave to people. But he's the one that talked to the owner and said, hey, I got these friends that do this stupid channel. Do you want them to come in? So we were like, and he was like, yeah, I want them to come in. And so here we are. Good. So anyways, what else? Do you want to say anything else about the game?
No, I don't know if we said the name of the game, Conquest of Nerath.
Yeah, I just said it was Dungeons and Dragons, but so it's called...
it's like an area control game, and if you stick around and watch the video, you'll see gameplay and everything. So that's all I've got to say. So I think we'll be back with how to set up, how to play components, all of that stuff. Then we'll do a 3-player game.
Yep. And
the review, like always. All right. We'll see you in a bit.
All right. So like we said when we started, we're doing this just like a little bit backwards because we want to do our silly intro like we normally do. We're going to show you what Dragon Distillery looks like. I think Jeb just took a little shot of the sign up there for you.
I think, there we go.
Which is pretty cool. A dragon, and it's on the door too. So when you walk in, you come on in, and we got like a medieval type of decor.
Watch out, Mickey, there's a dragon behind you.
There's a dragon in the cage over here. We got a knight over here. Jeff's going to be circling the room. You can see a couple like barrels, battle axes on the wall. And
can you find Gary? He's hidden.
Gary's a little bit like Where's Waldo? So here's a display of a lot of the stuff that they offer right here. Dragon stuff is not, this is decoration, not for sale, but this is Fear the Dragon. And so right now we have a chainmail cherry almond, and we have a longbow lemon, which is a citrus flavored vodka. This one is a black cherry and almond vodka with natural flavors. Then we have Bad Bill Tut moonshine, which is small batch corn whiskey, and this is a lemon meringue moonshine, and this is the mango sriracha flavored vodka, and then a couple of golf balls and et cetera, with just their stuff, glasses, things like that. And then, which you saw us before, this is their bar area with all the different...
Make me a drink, Mickey.
No, I'm not playing it. We got rum, we got white rum, we have Flaming Love, just medieval mint. I believe the medieval mint is if it's the same, is really cool because it's got a mint flavor, and then you get a touch of chocolate on the back end, which is really awesome. Anyways, and then over here you have we have some rye and bourbons and another ginger flavored vodka, and a couple other moonshines and things like that. So you can see that they have pretty huge selection, and they have tastings, and of course all these ones are
What are these cans here, man?
available for purchase. And then what we are going to be having during the episode are their pre-made mixed drinks, which they have in their own cans. And this one here is the Dragon Mule, which is their vodka and ginger beer. And then this one is called the Golden Dragon, which is their citrus vodka and with natural flavors, so they don't even tell you what it's a secret surprise. And then this one is their Dragon Draft, which is a bourbon and cream soda. And so in these cans, we have 3 shots, 4 shots. So they got a kick. And so yeah, that's basically a quick run around of the place. So here we are in a different room, if you guys can. We're back on the table. So we're doing a couple sections of this outside of the distillery because it's just easier to do, and we're not there, sucking up time for the whole day. But anyways, so we're going to show you guys components, and then we're going to go into the mechanics of the game, and then if you're going to watch gameplay, we will magically be back in the distillery for gameplay, and then we will magically pop back in this room for a review.
We traveled all over the world for this video.
Yes, we did. So first off, in terms of components, you see the map. I don't know if the camera is showing all of it. You got a pretty big map. Here's this way. Slide back this way.
Oh no, you're good with the lengthwise.
Right there. So anyways, I mean, you got maps. The important part of the maps is there's it might be a little bit hard to see. I think you probably see this good. Like this is all bordered in red. This up here is bordered in silver/gray. This is bordered in yellow, and this is bordered in black. The point of that being is that is the starting territories, or whatever you want to call it, for each individual color. The other important part of the board, obviously, is the scoring track. Some features to note, obviously, this is C. All the spaces that you start somebody in are marked with the figures that go in it. And then, besides that, there are 2 areas that are impassable, and then there are dungeon spaces on the map. And I think that pretty much covers anything except...
Yeah, in the 4 corners, they have the symbols for each, I guess, group or player, color, or whatever.
Faction, whatever you want to call it.
So I think that just kind of helps. Like, if you're red, then you probably want to sit in this corner of the board because that's where most of your stuff is. So
right, and so if we didn't mention in intro, it is a 1 to 4 player, but it always has. 4. I mean, it is a 2 to 4 player. But there always has to be all 4 of the factions on the board. I don't know. It's kind of good, kind of bad, however you want to look at it. It's interesting. But anyhow, so that's the board. So let's get into the rest of the components.
All right, so to start, every player has a faction with a faction card. So on the faction card, it has actually the turn order, sequence of play, and battle sequence, so just kind of like notes on what to do during a round. There's going to be a space for that player's event deck, and as you can see, this event deck matches that, so that's where it's going to sit. There's a discard pile, and then if you flip this over, there is a setup kind of table to tell you where to put all the pieces. So there's a map that shows where each of the pieces go, and I mean, it's pretty easy to understand.
And then if you go across this chart, it says, this is the location, this name down here, and then you run across and it says which troop and how many of that troop go in that particular space.
And then the other key thing is up here at the top. It tells you where your capital is, and your base income, and your starting treasury. So those are kind of important for gameplay.
Yep.
And then this was just for the silver player. There is one for the other 3 players. So everybody's going to have one of those. And then there is another one that is for the treasures in the dungeons. It has a space for the gold
if you want to put it there or not, up to you. The dungeon tokens are going to go here, and there's a discard pile for them, and then a treasure deck.
And then probably the worst thing that they probably did in the game is they give you this stuff to keep track of everything, and then they put the cheat sheet of everything else in the game on the back, which would really have been useful to be able to pass around. Although this same thing is on the back of the rule book over here. You're not going to be able to see it real close, but like this matches this.
Yeah.
And why in the world they did that is beyond me. That was just really, some of the stuff in this game was so good, and then it's like you dropped the ball because you were trying to cut one corner, and it was just dumb. Like, is this necessary, this part?
No.
No. Is it nice?
On the side,
but is it nice?
Yeah.
Yes. But then you ruined it by putting my cheat sheet
on
the back. Anyways.
That's Mickey's 2 cents on
That's
it.
my 2 cents.
Alright, so say that is the silver player. So what does each player get?
Okay, so each player has their own specific event deck, and that is important because the event decks are totally different. They really tried to give a feel to each faction to have their own personality, so to speak. So you're going to have your own event deck, your own card, which Jeb just mentioned. You're going to have your own markers, which is most...
I think it's only used for when you conquer
So
land.
basically, yeah, I was just trying to think if there's any other use for them. Not that we ran into, but basically this is to mark territories on your... on the map that you've conquered, and then you get all your pieces.
And here's all the pieces.
Yeah, that's all the pieces for one faction, but these are, just so you can see real quick, you got some ships, this is a monster, this is a wizard. I know you guys can't see all this stuff, but this is a siege engine, this is a castle. Now, one of the things that both Jeb and I, that's a foot soldier, one of the things that Jeb and I both really liked about what they did. First of all, the miniatures are kind of cool. Mm-hmm. They're more like this like little tiny army men that you used to be able to buy. I guess you can probably still buy them. But I don't know how much kids play with them anymore. But that's what they are reminiscent of. The other thing that's really nice about them is they coordinated with the map and the stuff you put on the board and keeping track of things and the stuff that they reference on different cards and stuff with not only a verbal like, hey, foot soldier, but if it's a foot soldier, they'll put a square by it, and if you'll notice, he's sitting on a square base. Mm. If they reference the castle, it'll be in a triangle. Castle's on a triangle. We got a hexagon there? Yep. So the siege engine is on a hexagon. If they were referencing that, they would also put the hexagon, etc., for everything. Like there's a pentagon for the monster. Oh my gosh, they're gonna make me memorize my shapes. And then the ship is pretty self-explanatory. The wizard he's on a hexagon too, but it's a little different shape. But you get my point. It makes it easy to be able to identify the figures, even if you can't see the symbol or whatever. They gave you multiple ways to be able to recognize what you're supposed to be putting where, and as you're playing the game, it actually really does help the flow, and not like, what is this on this space, and having to like pick up the character and look really close or anything like that. Just as a side note, all the foot soldiers are different for the factions, so that's kind of a neat little twist. Like, this guy has a sword and a shield, and another guy has got, I think, an axe, and another guy's got a bow.
The only things that are the same are
wizards
the
castles, and
the
siege engine, and castles, I think.
The elemental person and the boat.
Yeah, so they made a little bit of variety in like your monster and your foot soldier, just so you could have some fun. I think the heroes on the horses are similar. I don't know if they're exactly
different.
The same. Yeah. So
anyway, that's pretty much the components for each player.
Personal tokens, event deck, and all the figures.
All right, so let's talk about some general components. So, what is a game without money? So you got stacks of 5 gold bars and 1 gold bars.
Jeb and I hated the money. I don't know why. I don't even know why they did it like that.
It's very awkward shape.
It is. And I kept, when I first started playing, I kept looking at this and trying to count the gold. And it looks like, right off the bat, it looks like it's 3, but there's 2 slightly buried. These are 5 marks, like Jeb said, and these are 1 marks. The 1 marks aren't too bad, but I don't know why they didn't just make this bigger and put a big fat 5 on it or something.
I would have just taken a coin.
Or
1 coin.
Yeah, I don't even like
coins.
the shapes of them, to tell you the honest truth, but that's what they did. So, there you go.
Alright, next up are the dungeon monster tokens.
Right, so...
And they look like a dungeon door, and hey, guess what's on the backside?
Oh, maybe a monster, Jeb?
Yep, monsters.
Monsters.
So
those...
There's a whole stack of them, and you randomize them, so...
And you have the potential to encounter a dungeon throughout play.
Yep.
I think last but not least is Jeb's chips.
So,
bring it out here.
The red chips are used for counting 5 of, and the silver are for 1 of. So if you have a foot soldier and you say have 6 of them on 1 space, you can put that guy on there, and that says there is 5, 6 counting the guy on top. So 6 foot soldiers.
Right, because
there is no limited supply. It's
right. The number of these is not limited to what you have in the bag, and the board can get crowded.
Yes. Next thing up are the dice that are included, and they give you a variety. All the different miniatures use different dice for attack, so you got your 6, your 8, your 10, your 12, and your 20.
Right.
And then the very last thing, which is only used in Alliance games, are the victory point token Alliance counters.
Right. So if you're playing an Alliance, you know that one Alliance is always yellow-silver, and the other Alliance is always red-black. And that's based on turn order also, which
yes,
we haven't really got into yet, but
because it alternates. I think
right.
it's
and it's always
black,
the same.
Yellow.
Yeah. So it goes black, yellow, red, silver is the turn order. I don't remember the names of the factions. I'm not even going to try to attempt it. But you use these two when you're playing with alliances.
Because they share victory.
Right, and if you're playing a free-for-all, which you can only do with 4 players, then each player just uses one of their regular markers, and that goes on the victory track to track victory points.
Alright, so that's everything. We wanted to show you this because it's actually pretty handy. I'll push it up a little so they can see.
Yeah.
So that's actually all the components for each of the colors, and you got some leftovers. We didn't take everything out, but
for a game like this, that's Wizards of the Coast and stuff like that, sometimes you can be like, oh, they're just slapping a name on it, pumping something out. This insert is one of the better inserts that I've ever seen.
And this game came out a while ago. It's
right.
not like a current game.
You have giant compartments for all the figures, so these don't even need to be in bags if you don't want them to be. You have slots up here for each of the factions' tokens. You have slot here for the multiplier chips. You have individual slots for the dungeons and the money. And then for the cards, you have a card slot here. So yeah, they go right in there, right? But it's a pain in the butt to take cards out sometimes. They made a pivot, push down, all the cards come up. It's great.
And then one thing I like for traveling, the board, when it's folded up, it actually fits in flush to keep any of the...
This is not moving around at all.
Yep, and everything that, all the chips and all that stuff aren't going to fly out when you go around. So.
Right. So, and then the last but not least, that all the dice fit right up in here.
Yep.
Perfectly. So, yeah, kudos on the insert on this game.
Okay, so we're going to show you how to set up a game of Conquest of Nerath. So the first thing you're going to do is decide which realm each player is going to be and how long of a game you want. There's 4 realms. And every time you play this game, all 4 realms are going to be on the board. So you got to decide who has what realm, and if you have less players than realms, people are going to have to double up. So,
right. Which basically means that anything except 4-player, because there's two basically basic modes you can play this in, which is a free-for-all or an alliance. But if you don't have 4 players, you're playing an alliance,
Right.
because free-for-all just doesn't work. Because like Jeb said, if you have less than 4, then somebody has to play more than one realm. And if you have to play more than one realm, you really can't play a free-for-all, because theoretically you could manipulate because you're controlling 2, or however you want to word that. So basically that's the deal with that.
And then for determining game length, there's a short, a medium, and a long that you can choose from. And in the rulebook, it tells you how many victory points you play to. I think we found that...
With short and medium, long is always the same victory condition, except with a little tweaking.
Right, it's just dependent on the victory
Right.
points. There is, Alliance... Or is it free-for-all? Or Alliance that...
No, well, the long game says that you, like, however, doesn't matter how you're playing, but you need to take over the opponent's capitals.
Okay.
So, or get a certain amount of treasure cards.
Right.
And then in the other games, it's short or medium. It's based on this track with how many victory points it is. It's either a game of 13, 20, or 30 victory points. So
we're going to play a 3-person game, and we're going to make it short. So it's going to be Mickey and Gary allied on a team, and then I'm playing 2 realms. And since we're doing a short for that, we each need to get to 20 victory points, which I don't think...
And just as an aside, the alliances are always the same.
Right.
Because of the way the board is set up and everything. And there's the board obviously is always the same, as you can see, but the turn order is always the same too, and that's why you can't mix the alliances, so to speak.
Alright, so after you decided that, you're going to place the game board, which we have. Then you're going to give the reference card, and the starting pieces are going to be placed for each character.
So for this example, because it takes a little bit to set up the board, we're going to set up 2 factions so you can see it, or realms, whatever you want to call them. And if you watch beyond this and go into gameplay, you'll see the total board setup. But it really doesn't matter if you just see these. So I'll probably flap a little bit while we do this, and Jeb's going to probably speed up the tape while we do this.
Well, before that, each player is going to take their event card, so
Put that on
silver there, and I'll take the black one since I'm setting up black over here.
And then, like we had pointed out earlier, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can turn this over to make sure you're doing it right. You can also look at the spots on the board and go. So, for instance, I look at this place and it's got a dragon symbol here for the silver, and this guy here has a foot soldier, and then foot soldier, siege engine, and a wizard. Find a wizard. And then this one is me, and it has a monster, and a foot soldier, and a foot soldier. And one thing I'll say is that I found, like, the first time that I did this, that I thought it was a little bit cumbersome. And then, like, honestly, the very next time that I did it, I was like, oh, this is not bad at all.
Especially when you know what the symbols on the board are.
And it takes about 5 seconds to get used to the symbol, honestly. So, I'm at the point where I think I hit everything. So what I'll do is I'll look at the back of my card, and it's got listed 17 things that I know are, and it's got a list of basically areas where you're going to put something. So mine goes up to 17. So I'm going to go real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm missing something. There, Jeb found them. And there's 2 spots, so 15, 16, 17. What do I need over there, Jeb? I can't see.
They're off the board, but you need a foot soldier, wizard, and trebuchet.
Foot soldier, wizard,
I got the trebuchet.
and foot soldier.
Alright.
And so what I did is I basically looked at the back card, said I should be in 17 spots, counting my spots. I hit 15, so I didn't have them all. And Jeb was like, hey, you missed these couple down here. I just filled them in with what was supposed to be there. And then that's the setup. Jeb did the same thing with the black figures over here. Double checked also. Made sure that everything was on the board.
Yep.
The other thing is that obviously the red and the yellow, because like we told you, everything is going to be on the board. If you glance around the board and you see like this spot over here, I don't know if you can see my finger.
Nope.
Alright, so this spot over here, and you're like, oh wait a second, that's got a symbol and you're starting the game and nothing's there.
Yeah.
You screwed up. You got to put, you got to make sure that every spot with a little square is got a figure, at least one figure placed in it.
Yep. Alright, next up you are going to shuffle the event decks for each player, and you place it on the spot on your reference card.
That says event deck.
And then after that, everybody gets to draw 2 for their starting hand. After that, you are going to shuffle the treasure cards and place them on the quick reference card. So up there.
This is where we have this right now. This is one of those things where it's like you can kind of keep it within reach of everybody, or you can have one person in charge. It doesn't matter, because this is also where the bank is going to be, so to speak.
And then also after that, you are going to shuffle the dungeon tiles and place one on each of the dungeons on the map, and the rest will go on there. I'm just putting, I just gave Mickey some of them, not all of them.
Right.
So
yeah,
as
there's
you
a pretty big stack of these, and again, we're just showing you the upper half so you can kind of see how this will all work. And there's one down here. That's probably all you can see right now. And then the rest of them would go here, and then anytime that one of the dungeons, which are monsters, gets defeated, it goes back in this discard pile, I believe, face up.
Yes. Right.
And then you have a spot for your 1s and your 5s for the gold tokens. There's an awful lot of them. I don't.
Yeah, we just left them in the box.
Yeah, without stacking them real neat, they're not going to fit on that card so great. There's also the victory conditions down this side of the card. This was the card that I was complaining about earlier.
Alright, next up you're going to take a control marker from each realm and place it on the victory point track.
So again, this is basically if you get to play free-for-all. This is a 4-player game. Then there would be one of these, a red and a yellow marker. So that's what it would look like in a 4-player free-for-all, or
if you were doing Alliance, though,
which is every other kind.
Yep, you would not put those on there. You would use these instead, which are half colored for to show the Alliance. And after you do that, you are going to get each player their starting gold, which you can find on the back of your player card. So
there are 2 gold numbers, so make sure that you pick the right one, because if you looked real quick, you would see base income first. That is not your starting income. Keep reading, and then it says starting treasury. That is your starting income.
And what's yours, Mickey?
13 for the silver player.
So I'm giving him 2 5s and 3 1s.
And you just put them on your in front of you, or however you want to do it.
And each player gets their starting gold.
Right. And the reason I said that is, like, let's take a look at the black player. For instance, their base income is 15, and their starting goal is 10. So you can see that there's a significant difference between bases and starts in this game, and that's for a balancing purpose, which I feel like they probably did pretty well based on the teeny bit that we played, and then the full game that we played.
Yep. And that's everything for setup. So once everybody's done all that, you're ready to start a game. Alright, so we're back with the gameplay of Conquest of Nerath. A quick overview is the game's going to be played over rounds, and each round every player is going to get 1 turn. and the turn order is actually set, and it's on the player card. So I think it goes black, yellow, red, silver.
Yep.
So it's very simple in turn order. There's no changing of that. So on a player's turn, you just follow the steps that are listed on there.
Yep.
There is a really quick overview. There's a draw step, a move step, a fight step, a
reposition step.
Yep.
A reinforce step, and a collect income step.
Yep. So when it's your turn, just follow those in order, and you're good as gold.
Yep.
So let's go over those real quick. So the first step is draw, and what you're going to do is for the draw phase, you're going to draw the top event card from your deck.
Literally just take a card, put it in your hand.
Yep.
There is no hand limit in this game.
Right. And then some of the cards actually say play instantly.
That's
so
correct.
if you draw a card that says play immediately, then you play it immediately.
Right. Some of the other examples are this. Like I'm looking at a card that says play during your draw step, play at the start of a battle round, play at the end of a battle round. So you get my picture. If it doesn't say play immediately, the card is specifically going to tell you when you are allowed to play it. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind.
Yep. So after you draw your card, the next phase is the move phase. And this one is kind of, it's up to you how much you want to move on the board. Because you're allowed to move any or all of your figures that are on the map.
Right. And you heard that correctly. You can move any or all or none of your pieces on the map up to their move ability. So
yes, that's key. Each piece has its own move ability.
Yep.
However, there's kind of a simple way to remember how much pieces can move.
Pretty much.
So the foot soldiers and the siege engines can only move one space, and that's moving to an adjacent space.
And then everything else, except for the dragon, moves 2.
Yep.
The dragon gets to move 3, and a castle can't move because it's castle.
Yep.
That's it.
So it's pretty easy to remember.
But, Jeb, what about a boat? What did Mickey just say, Jeb?
Everything
except the dragon gets moved 2.
Yep. So boats move 2. And one thing to remember is things that are land-based can only stay on the land. They can't move through ocean except by boarding boats.
Right.
And I think the boats, the dragons, and the elementals are the only thing that can move over the ocean because they're flying or floating.
Right. So boats can't go on land, but they can move around the sea. Your elemental, which basically looks like a whirlpool tornado, can move on either, but there is some detriment for the sea thing going onto the land. The dragon, which is arguably the strongest piece in the game, can do anything it wants.
Yeah. When you're moving, you can move through friendly spaces, but if you hit a dungeon or an enemy space, you have to stop. So, one quick thing, this foot soldier here, he can move 1, so he could move 1. Oh, look at that. That worked easily. This monster, however, if it wanted to go over here, I don't know if they can see with my arm in the way, if he wanted to move all the way over here, he can't, because he can only move 1 adjacent.
There's
it's
an enemy so
there,
he has to stop.
So he has to stop. So that's how that would work.
I'd like to also point out, just as a side note, that even includes an enemy space that has no enemy figures in it.
Right.
So, here's a perfect example. Can they see my finger, Jeb?
Yes.
Okay. So, this isn't populated right now just because we didn't populate it, but let's say that this is for real, has nothing in it. And I move into here. That forces me to stop in that space because that's an enemy space. I don't control it yet, etc., etc. I have to stop, and we'll get to it, but it's going to cause a battle even though obviously I'm going to win the battle. But it's important to note that just because the space is empty, that doesn't automatically grant you permission to move through it.
Right. He can't go, oh, this guy's going to go 1-2.
Right.
Nope, he's stuck in the middle one. There are a few exceptions. The dungeons, only heroes can move onto dungeons, and heroes include fighters and wizards.
Easy way to remember that, the wizard has a wizard staff and the fighter's on the horse.
Yep. So they're the only ones that are allowed to move on dungeon tiles. The figures that have flying, which are the dragon and the elemental, they are able to fly over enemies. So if we had this situation where this dragon was here, he could go 1, 2, 3 and stop there. Because he's flying. He can fly over the enemies. He's not forced to stop where they are. Alright, next up are the boats. So boats have a capacity of 2 units. So only 2 units can be on a boat at a single time.
Not that it makes a difference, but I believe it does say land unit, so I guess why you would ever want to.
Yeah, I don't
you
think
can't pick up a dragon or an elemental on it. I can't even think why you would want to do that, but let's just get the question out of the way, and
somebody
you can't
would
do
want
that.
to.
Somebody would want to know. So no, and you can't put a castle on it.
Right.
But yes, you can put a siege engine on it, though.
Alright. So, for boats, there's embarking and disembarking. So, to embark on a boat, the unit has to be adjacent to it, and it can't have moved before it embarks.
Right.
So, this siege engine is sitting in a space adjacent to this boat, so on Mickey's move turn, he could put the siege engine on the boat. However, he could not take this rider and go 1 and then embark on the boat because the rider moved. So they have to start adjacent to the boat to get on it. And then the boat is able to move up to 2. And then when the boat gets rid of the units on the new space, the units can't move away from where they disembark. They have to stay there for that turn.
Right. So the units on the boat are allowed to disembark on a adjacent land to where the boat moves to. So for instance, let's say, again, so this territory right here is adjacent to this boat. Here's an example. I embark on this boat, and now I'm going to move the boat. I move the boat 1, and I move the boat 2. Alright, so there's example 1. And I could now disembark. Again, these cannot move. They didn't move before, and they're not going to move after, but they can disembark there. Also, if the boat had ended here with 2 people, one could go here, and one could go either here or here, because it has access.
You don't have to place them in the same space.
That's
you can
correct.
Distribute them anywhere adjacent.
Right.
And then the book mentions this one thing called bridging.
Yes.
So if you want to put these back here, say this boat was right here. This foot soldier, he can embark on the boat, and then he can disembark there.
Right. So he could skip moving,
right,
having to take a whole nother turn. He can just kind of leapfrog, but that's all he can do.
Yep. So there are some spaces around the board that are just one C space in between. So you can do stuff like that. Alright, so once you decide on everything you want to move, you will enter the fighting phase. And in this one, you are going to resolve all the battles that you caused. So battles are started when you move your units into enemy territories. So during your move step, say what's a good example to put? I guess that one foot soldier moved into that trebuchet area.
So let's say this guy moved in, and I was really hoping to get this, so this guy had 2 movement, and I put that in there. I'll leave that alone. The other scenario is I wanted to face a dungeon, so I moved my wizard in here. Really wanted to make sure I got this dungeon, so I moved 2 wizards in there. So again, 1, 2, that wizard was there, that was only 1 movement. Up here, this guy was, the monster has 2 movement, 1, 2. This guy was sitting here and he has a movement at 1. We're not going to go, if you really want to see a bunch of movements happening, watch the first 10, 15 minutes of gameplay. We're just trying to get you into like a little bit of the battle mode. You can get some of the more specifics if you actually watch gameplay.
Can you grab that black boat up top?
Sure.
And then put it with this?
I'm going to show a sea battle.
Yeah, and let's throw this guy on this boat.
Alright.
Alright. So we set up the board to have a few battles occur on Mickey's turn. So it being Mickey's turn, he gets to resolve the order of the battles. However, you have to do sea battles before land battles. That's the one restriction.
Yep.
So we have set up one sea battle in the middle of the board right there.
So we have a sea battle here. We have an elemental, a sea elemental, a boat, an enemy boat, and an enemy hero. So now we determine which dice are going to be rolled.
Right.
So in this case, I would look at the chart and see what is my elemental roll, and I look it up and I see, wait a second, elemental has a special ability when he's at sea, he gets to roll 2 dice,
Yep.
which are 2d10 or d8, sorry, 2d8. I look at the boat. The boat always gets to roll a d8. So I'm going to be rolling 3d8. The enemy, which is a boat and a hero, looks
The
at
hero is on the boat.
Right,
by
the
way.
hero is on boat. That's why he's standing in the water, because he's with the boat. He looks at I look at that and he goes, boat. So he gets a d8. And then I'm like, oh crap. He has a hero. Heroes are allowed to participate in sea battles. Nothing else is allowed to that's sitting on a boat. So if you have foot soldiers, they don't get to participate. If you have a siege engine, it doesn't get to participate. If you have a wizard, it gets to participate. So just keep that in
Remember,
mind.
hero includes fighter and wizard.
Right.
That's the
So
key
if
thing.
either of those are on the boat, they get to play.
Alright, so
Alright.
that's my dice pool for black.
And that's my dice pool for gray.
Alright,
And-
so first thing, you check if anybody has first strike. First strike rolls before everything.
Right. So
in this case, nothing, right?
Right. So the only inherent first strike is a wizard.
Right.
So unless you get a event card that lets you add first strike to something else, neither of us has a wizard, so there is no first strike. Now we are going to simultaneously roll.
Right. So I'll roll here.
And we look for 6s.
Yes, a hit in this game is 6 or higher unless there's something that says that you need to roll more than a 6. So Mickey rolled his die, I rolled mine. So the results,
Jeb got a hit, and I did not.
alright. So the hits are assigned simultaneously. Since only I got one, I say, Mickey, you've got a hit. So now Mickey has to decide which unit takes a damage.
And Jeb does not get to decide.
Right.
So me being the smart person I am, I'm going to remove the boat, because if I remove the elemental, I would lose 2 dice. I only lose 1 dice by removing the boat.
Yes. So that die is gone. Everything has 1 hit point except for the dragons.
Right.
They take 2 hits to destroy.
Right. And we'll get into that in a minute, because it's a little, it's not complicated, but it's a little bit different.
Right.
All right. So now we look at the board again and determine which dice we're going to roll.
Well, whoever's the attacker gets to choose
If they're
either
gonna
to
retreat.
continue or retreat. So
I'm not going to retreat. So
All right.
we'll continue this battle. Hope that Jeb whiffs.
Ooh,
so
I
Mickey
did whiff.
And Mickey gets 2 hits.
All right. So I have to assign 2 hits. So I only have 2 things. So they're both dead. So
So as you saw. So, all right, what we were talking about the dragon is, let's pretend that Jeb had a dragon in that scenario right there that we just did. I'm assigning 2 hits, and he had these 3 things in. He would have got to roll a d20, but for purposes of showing what the dragon does, let's just say you whiffed.
I rolled a 3.
He rolled a 3. He didn't get anything. You have to assign 2 hits, Jeb. What are you going to do?
Okay. So there's a couple of rules about this. So 2 hits. 1 I can assign to the dragon, but I cannot assign the other to the dragon because I need to distribute it among all my units before I can double up on somebody.
Right. So
I could either do 1 on the dragon and I would kill him, or if I decided to hit the dragon and if I, not smart, chose the boat and the hero would die, which is not what you want to do.
Right. So even though the hero has the D10, he can't choose the boat to keep the D10 because the hero's sitting
Right.
on the boat. So this is a really good example of some of the nuances of a sea battle and how the dragon works. But it's really important. The most important part, I think, that Jeb was talking about is to remember that you can't suck up all the hits between like of any one unit. So even if for some reason you got an event card that said boats take 2 hits this time, you still always have to distribute all the way around everything you have on the board before you can double up, like Jeb said, on something. So, like, if I wanted to wipe all of his things out, basically I'd have to have a total of 4 hits. Because I would have to hit 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and then 1 more to totally kill the dragon.
Yep.
It's important to realize that, because once my turn ends, that dragon goes back to full health.
Yes, if the dragon only takes 1 hit and the turn ends, he gets flipped back over.
And he's ready to go again.
Yep, so I'll just throw him back there.
Hopefully that made it clear. Again, if not, watch some gameplay. There is some dragon battles that go on.
Alright, so that was all the sea battles we had set up. So next we're going to move to land battles. So let's do that one land battle up there.
Alright, so land battles are very, very, very similar. We're going to look at what's on the board, and we have some interesting combinations, and if they don't go exactly how we want them to go, then we'll make crap up and show you how they work.
That's how we do everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jeb has a foot soldier, I have a foot soldier, Jeb has a siege engine, and I have a monster.
Okay, so foot soldiers get
D6.
a D6.
So we both get a D6.
Alright, monsters get a D12. Siege engines get a D8 when defending. If they're attacking, they would get 2 D8s, but since I'm the defender right now, I only get 1. So we look, nobody has first strike, so we roll simultaneously.
2 hits.
I got nothing.
Woo!
So Mickey just cleared that out.
Which is very... If you can hit with a foot soldier, that is so good.
Alright, so we should probably talk about what happens when you resolve a battle. It says in the sea, it doesn't matter too much because nobody can take control of the sea. However, when you're on land, since Mickey won the battle, what he's going to do, since it is in an enemy territory...
Right, black border.
Yep, he gets to place one of his control tokens on it.
Boom.
And then he gets to score a victory point.
And I score a victory point on the victory tag.
Yep. So, that's one thing. Every time you conquer an enemy territory, land territory, you get 1 victory point.
Nothing happens in the sea.
Yes.
The sea, you can have battles and stuff, but there's no control over the sea.
And if you defeat an enemy that's in your own territory, that's called liberating your territory, and you don't get a victory point for it.
It's like basically you took it back. Because, which we haven't really got into yet, the land that you control is worth income at the end of your turn.
Yeah.
So that's why you could be saying, well, why would I ever want to liberate anything? Because if you don't liberate anything, your income's never really probably going to be able to go up.
Yep. Alright, so that was another battle we did. Just a quick thing, if you decide to retreat, you would just retreat to an adjacent friendly space.
Which is most likely going to be where you came from. Right. Now, Jeb talked about the siege engine. If it had been attacking, it gets 2 die, and it wasn't in that case. It only got 1. Mm-hmm. However, my monster won a battle.
Yes,
right?
And the monster has an ability called Run Amok.
Right. And this isn't... It has nowhere to run amok. But... Let's say that it did. That's not a good spot
for it. Switch that and take that. Say that Mickey just won a battle right there.
Yep.
So that's where Mickey won.
Even though that's my territory.
Whatever.
Whatever. It doesn't. Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter. Let's just say that I do, like.
He just did a battle and killed my guys in that spot.
The monster's ability is to run amok. And what run amok means is, oh, I just run a battle and I took control of it. If that's possible, if it's possible, the monster can take a free move into an adjacent empty enemy territory and instantly conquer it.
Yep.
So if that was the case, I would be able to put another token in that space, and that would be, because I conquered, I would get another victory point in it. So that's the monster's special ability.
Alright, and then say in the future, if Mickey had won this space, and then I moved a guy over and we did a battle, and I win, then Mickey's guy's dead, and the control that Mickey has gets taken off, and it's back to me.
Right.
So that's how the control kind of works.
And I will say that Jeb and I went back and forth on what he just did a little bit, because there's a wording in the rule book that says your tokens on the board are how you keep track of victory points. And I was like, well, does that mean they stay on the board even if you get liberated? And we went back and forth with this discussion, because inherently, if you take it off the board to show that it was liberated, does that mean the victory point goes backwards? There is absolutely nothing in the rulebook that ever says anything about losing victory points. So we made the decision that the point that they were trying to get to was that every time you conquer an enemy space, not your own, anytime an enemy space is conquered, doesn't matter how many times that space is reconquered, you get a victory point. And the victory points never go backwards, unless there's some kind of crazy card in an event deck that we haven't seen.
Yeah, we haven't run into it.
So, and honestly, that makes a lot of sense. This could be could be like a game of Monopoly if this stuff went backwards on this game. It would be quite long.
I wouldn't play it that long.
So anyways, hopefully we got that right. If somebody knows anything different than what we just said, pipe up, let us know. After playing the game, we feel like that felt right too. Yep. So anyways.
Alright, and then one thing, we said when you conquer an enemy territory, you get 1 victory point. If you conquer the enemy's capital, you get 5 victory points. And the capital on the board, I think, like right here, you can see there's the symbol of the player. So that's how you tell which is the capital. Each color only has one capital. I don't know.
No, you probably can't see it. There's a dot right there that matches my symbol. And like Jeb said, 5 victory points. I'll tell you what. You give up your capital and you're probably done.
Oh yeah,
because 5 victory points
in a game to 20.
Five victory points is huge, and if you lose your castle and you don't get it back, you're halved in the amount of amount of money you get, right?
Yeah.
So
we'll reiterate that in.
I'm just trying to tell them how important. That's a ridiculous. Don't lose your capital.
All right, so that was one of the land battles that we did. So let us talk about the dungeon battles.
All right.
And you're actually going to see first strike in this one. So.
Yes, you are. We're going to see double first strike in this one because I want to win this dungeon. Anyways, Jeb had said it earlier. I'm going to reiterate it. So the only people that can stand on the dungeon are the heroes. I have 2 wizards here. However, a fighter could stand on
in there
it. Also, Jeb wants me to just throw it in for giggles. All right, so I've got 3 figures going to go into the dungeon. So at this point, I flip the dungeon.
Yep.
And I look to see what we got. What do we got? We got a green slime, Jeb.
Yep. The green slime, it has a picture of 2 D8s. So that is how it's going to attack. And it represents its life. So, and underneath it, it said, heroes need a 7 or higher to hit it. And it has a reward of +1 gold. So if Mickey can defeat it, he gets an extra gold.
Alright, and so I have wizard. So they're all heroes. They're all a D10.
So
the wizards do have first strike. And one thing I would like to point out from the way, again, an interpretation of the rules to the best of our knowledge, also based on the example. If a monster comes up and it gives one of these stats, because there are... In the future, you could have 2 monsters.
Right.
Or, I don't think it goes more than that. But you could have more than 1 monster that you'd be battling. And this literally says, heroes needs +7 to hit. That's universal.
So it means the other monster that would be with it,
I still
these
need...
heroes would have to get a 7 or higher.
Right, so until this thing dies, I need a 7 on everything to hit. So I have 2 wizards, so I'm going to perform a first strike.
Before you do that, the person who rolls for the monster is the person to the player's left.
Yep. Which is Jeb in this case.
Yeah.
And I don't think that matters as long as it's not you or probably somebody in your alliance. Yeah. I don't know how they can control the die, but whatever. So 2 wizards, both of them have first strike.
So since they have first strike, they get to roll their dice before everybody else, and then the damage from the dice gets assigned before everybody else rolls. So there's a chance to reduce your opponent's units and dice.
Right, and so hopefully if I do get 2 hits, Jeb won't even get a chance to roll.
Right.
And I did.
Wow, you did. So since Mickey got 2 hits off of it, the monster only has 2 dice, so I would get rid of 1 for 1 hit and another 1 for the other hit. And Mickey destroyed the monster. So that would
no, I didn't. I need a 7 or more. I whiffed. I whiffed them. Back it up. This is why we do this.
All right.
And now Jeb didn't even have to put a pop-up for this mistake.
Yeah.
I totally whiffed.
All right.
And
so the
that
wizards,
was first strike. And
the wizards were close. So
that's right.
Since first strike's done, now all the remaining people in the battle are going to roll their dice.
Which
so that's
is green slime and the hero. I got a 9 this time.
I got a
hit.
6. Yep, so I got 1 hit, and Mickey's got a hit.
Right, so I'll get rid of the hero.
All right.
Or the fighter.
And then I get rid of 1 of my dice. So.
And now I decide if I want to back out of the dungeon or not, which would basically be retreating. I do not want to.
Right.
So the wizards first strike again.
Yep.
So 7 or higher, baby. And an 8.
He got the 8.
And I eliminate his other die.
I only had 1 die left, so that defeats the monster. It gets thrown in the discard pile.
So I get a 1 gold reward.
Yep, so 1 gold goes to Mickey.
And the most important part of this...
When you clear a dungeon, no matter how many monsters were in it, you draw 1 treasure card.
1 treasure card.
The treasure card goes to your hand, and you can play it whenever it says you can. And most of them, I think, say play at any time.
And this one's really pretty awesome. So most of these are, not most, a lot of them are property things. So basically that means it's good for the rest of the game. Some of them are a play immediately.
Right.
And then they just have an effect and go off. But this is a Philosopher's Stone. It says play at any time. So I'm going to play it right now. And it says your realm's income increases by 1. So I'm always going to get an extra gold no matter what during the collection phase. And at the bottom it says number of victory points, and this one's 2. So I just automatically, boom.
When he plays the card, he gets those victory
2 victory points.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to play the card, because this says play at any time, and so until I can keep it in my hand if I want to be like,
I'm not close to
I'm not close to winning the game. Boom, boom, boom. I drop down 5 victory points or something, and then foil Jeb's plans. I don't know, but having an extra income seems pretty good. Making Jeb sweat over the amount of victory points I have seems pretty good. And
yeah, the treasure cards, they have properties which are constant effects. Right. And then there's another one that I can't remember the name of it.
Play immediately or something, right?
No, it has a word for it. But that is just a one-time effect that you get.
But it's called a power.
Right. Yeah, the powers are a one-time effect.
Yeah. I see what you're saying now. So a property is you own it. A power is a one-time effect.
And then some cards have a power and a property, which when you play it, you get the power once and then the property for then on.
Gotcha.
So that's it for the dungeon.
And that's it for what we're, at least at this point in the game, what we're going to show you, I think, for battles. Hopefully that was enough. There's some more complicated battles during gameplay if you want to watch it.
One thing is if you lose to the monster in the dungeon, it stays face up in the space, so other people will know what the monster is. So once the battle phase is over, you're going to move to your reposition phase. And what this is all heroes that are on dungeons move off to an adjacent friendly space. So in Mickey's case, he's got those guys. They'll move off. And then any flying units get to move up to their movement as long as they end in a friendly space. So during this phase, you cannot start any new battles.
Right. So like if I wanted to move the dragon around, I could move him wherever I want, but I couldn't be like, oh, I'm going to move here.
Right.
That's starting a battle. I can't do that. The dragon can't move that far. Just showing examples, people.
And then I don't know the exact phase, but at some point you need to replenish the dungeon. And we just did it during the reposition because the heroes left it. What you're going to do is place 2 monster tiles on the dungeon if it's been cleared.
Yeah, after the... So when the game starts, everything gets 1 monster, but then after that, they get 2 from that point on.
Yep. Alright, so once reposition phase is done, then it's the reinforce phase. And in this phase, you're going to spend your gold to buy new units.
Right, so on the first round, you have the gold that basically you got at the start of the game. So for instance, I have 13. I don't have everything memorized, so I would consult the back of the rule book or the back of this card, but I'm not going to flip that over with other cards on it. I'll read this real quick, but like I said, this cheat sheet here, I would, you know, you might even want to photocopy a couple of them. It's got a decent cheat sheet. So a foot shoulder costs 1, a siege engine costs 2, a fighter costs 2, a wizard costs 3, a monster costs 3, a castle costs 4, a storm elemental costs 3, a dragon costs 5, and a warship costs 2. So those are all the costs. You're not limited to your supply. So
yep. You just use the little these little token things.
Like if you're playing a game and your first strikes are on fire, have at it with wizards.
Yep.
Or whatever. I mean, eventually you're only going to be able to control one side of the board with wizards if you don't have any ships.
Yeah.
But who's to say?
One thing to note is that when you're buying units, you can spawn as many of them as you want in your capital, but any other castles that you own can only spawn up to 4.
Right. So this is my capital. I can always spawn anything I want here, as many as I want here, as long as I have the money. This is a remote castle. I can spawn anything I want here, but I can't go over 4 units.
Right. And then one thing that we didn't talk about that we'll do really quick is if, say, Mickey went over here in the Black Castle area and he did a battle and he won, he would destroy the units, and then he now controls that castle. It doesn't get taken off of the board, but he cannot spawn the turn he takes control of it. He has to wait 1 turn before he can start spawning from it.
Right.
So castles always stay on the board, and you cannot have 2 castles in the same spot.
Right.
And when you build a castle, it has to be in a territory that you control. And I think the only other thing is when you spawn units, they get a free movement. So if you spawn a foot soldier here, you can move him 1 if you want to prepare him somewhere else.
Right,
Like
so
that.
anything that you spawn, even if it's on a remote castle, they get a... so if I spawn a dragon at this castle, he's got a move of 3 if he wants it. So the movements don't change on the... and
I'm pretty sure you can't start battles, so that's another thing.
Yeah, on the reinforcement spot, you can't... regular movement. I'm just trying to say it's not restricted by anything. It's like reinforce, and then like everything that you reinforce kind of gets a move, so to speak. If you want them to,
and then
you don't have to.
One kind of situational thing. All right, so Mickey spawns a boat adjacent to a castle, and the boat can be spawned in the sea because boats can't be spawned on land. If he also spawns a monster, he can spawn it onto the boat if he wants to. So newly spawned boats can hold newly spawned units. And then with the free movement, the boat could move 1, 2. Alright, so once your reinforced step is done, then the last thing on your turn is going to be collect your income. So for collecting income, you're going to get 1 gold for every space you control.
Land space.
Land space. Good call. So, on the back of your sheet, it gives a
Base income.
base income,
And
which
your
is
base-
the amount of land spaces you control in the beginning.
Right. So I have 14.
And then a quick way you can just kind of look at the board and see what you control and what you lost, and just do the math that way.
Right. And so what Jeb means by that is I would look at the board. I would count any new conquest markers I put down on the board, right?
Yep.
So like I said, I counted there or whatever, right? And so let's just pretend that's it. And then all I had was...
That got taken over by black.
Okay. So I took that over. I don't have any other markers, so I know my base is 14, so I would go 15, and then I would look and see, did anything get taken from me? And I looked down there, and I noticed that Jeb took over one there, even though he didn't put a black marker on it. But I see his people in there, and I'm like, okay, so now I subtract one. So I'm right back to where I started. So I would get 14 income at the end of my turn. And then I would obviously get to spend that at the end of the next turn. But that's how income works. Hopefully that made sense. It's really not that complicated if it sounded complicated.
Right. The only thing is, if you lost your capital, when you count up your income, you divide that by 2. So Mickey got 14. If he had lost his capital, he'd only get 7.
Remember what we said a couple minutes ago? Don't lose your capital.
That's everything on your turn. So since Mickey took his turn, the next player would take theirs, and you just do that. At the end of the round is when you check to see if anybody's won the game. So if you're doing an alliance versus an alliance and a short game, whoever's the first to 20 points is the winner. So at the end of the round, you check the victory point track. If somebody's there, then that's the game.
Yep. Remember, it's the end of the round, so if the person that went first was the first one to 20, the other people get to go, and if they surpass 20, they're going to win.
Yep.
Do not remember what it said in case of a tie. I believe it said keep playing until you get a winner.
If tie, play another round.
Yes, so I got that right. So it is continue to play until there is a clear-cut winner at the end of a round. That's a key thing to remember.
And then I think the only other thing that we need to talk about is alliances. And for alliances, one of the rules is you can move through your allied territory without having to be stopped. Right. So like the movement, if you hit an enemy territory, you have to stop. If you hit an ally territory, you can keep going through it. And then if you ever liberate in allies' territory, you don't get victory points, because that's kind of like liberating.
It's like liberating yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's everything for gameplay. I don't think we missed anything. If we did, then that situation might not come up much.
No, all I'll say is, which I've said probably 3-4 times, maybe more throughout the thing. If this seems like it's too much, watch 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes of the gameplay, which is right after this video, and you should get a real solid feel for how this plays. It's really not that complicated. They just, if you're familiar with Risk at all, it's very similar. They added some neat mechanics to make it, its own thing, though. It's particularly the event cards make the game pretty cool, honestly. And so that's it. So we're going to magically pop back into the distillery now.
Yeah.
And we're going to play a 3-player game of, what's it called? All I can think of is Dungeons & Dragons. I can't remember.
Conquest of Nerath.
Yeah, it's right in front of me.